Premier, thanks for your time. You drive around Brisbane, you see a lot of these election posters, billboards up with your face on them next to Tony Abbott, talking about the cuts that you've made and saying Tony Abbott might do the same. Do you feel like you're involved a little more than you'd like to be in this campaign?
Look, I'm relishing it because it allows me to talk about the truth of the matter, which is that we actually have had to make tough decisions. Why? Because of the decisions of Peter Beattie and Anna Bligh, and even going back to Wayne Goss's time when Kevin Rudd was the Chief of Staff. So we're actually repairing Queensland, and contrary to the nonsense on the billboards and the stuff the unions are spouting, we're starting to see the runs on the board. Already, for example, we've got the best performing emergency departments in the nation. Those are federal government figures, and we used to have 2 years ago, 18 months ago, ramping with ambulances lined up outside.
But have there been 14,000 job cuts?
Well, they have, and we've acknowledged that. But contrary to what the Labor Party is saying, the hospitals are performing better. They haven't been cut at all. The budget's $1 billion more.
So this was the right thing to do. And
absolutely.
Would you recommend it to Tony Abbott?
Well, can I just finish? Just give your viewers a bit of a handle on what has been going on. I mean, the health budget's been increased by over $1 billion. The education budget has been increased. When you call an ambulance, it turns up, and it's more likely to get you into the ED quickly now because of the things we've done. We've got a great schools package which we're rolling out to get better outcomes for our kids. There are far more police. There's hundreds more police. Sure. So the point is,
no Queenslanders
know. But what I'm saying is, Queenslanders know that yes, we have cut staff numbers, but it's actually been, as we said, in the main back of house, it hasn't affected frontline service delivery. In fact, frontline services are being delivered far more effectively. And that's why, if you go out there and really understand what Queenslanders are saying, they see it for what it is, complete Labor nonsense.
So, but this sort of tough medicine approach wouldn't have included anything like the sort of generous paid parental leave scheme Tony Abbott's talking about now. That wouldn't have been in your mould as an opposition leader coming into government, would it?
Well, the federal government's budget, even though it has been decimated in a relative sense by the Labor Party, and they're well on the way taking it towards Queensland levels. Ultimately, if they get another 3 to 6 years, it's nothing in the sort of the magnitude of the problems that we have in Queensland. I mean, we will have in 2 years' time, despite our tough decisions, $80 billion debt. $80 billion worth of debt and an annual turnover of the state budget about $48 billion. That's Anna Bligh,
but see,
and that's Peter Beattie.
That's because you put a handbrake on growth by making all those cuts.
No, we're talking about the state's budget that they controlled, where they massively increased the number of public servants. The expenses went up 8.9% each year for 10 years. And since we've got into office, we've curtailed that to 1.1. I mean, you want to talk about the state's economy. I asked you to go back to about 2 weeks ago, the job figures and what was on the front page of the Australian. I mean, the UBS economist said that Queensland was a standout economy, the standout state economy. CommBank said that they were quite fascinated. I think, well, the words they used was the buoyancy of the Queensland economy. That's not me. So Queensland's economy is poised to actually really outstrip all the other states. We're moving ahead of WA now. And we're turning the budget problems around.
Just getting back to this,
frontline services.
Getting back to this paid parental leave scheme, you said that you're 100% on board with this. Is there going to be any cost to Queensland, though? Do you think?
Well, the commitment that they have made, that the Abbott team have made, was that there'll be no net cost. And I've
so that's it. That's a guarantee.
That's what we've been told. Absolutely. And the way that it works is that we have a maternity leave scheme right now that the Borbidge coalition government brought in '98. So the way it will work is that with the Abbott scheme in place, people will have a choice. If they choose to go with the Abbott scheme, a more generous scheme, what we'll do is we'll pay what they would have got as a Queensland public servant under the 1998 scheme that exists today. So we'll simply hand that money across to the Commonwealth because we won't have to pay it ourselves. They can pay the rest.
If there is any additional cost that emerges, you won't pay it?
No, we wouldn't. But I don't see how that's going to be the case, given that's the way it works.
But do you, as a Liberal, feel that this is a too generous scheme?
No, I don't, because I think that with the demographic sort of issue that we have in this nation, with the ageing population, we have to have as many people, productive people, in the workplace as we possibly can. I mean, the other issue, of course, is we need older people to continue to stay in the workforce. But we can't have a whole lot of women, particularly, sort of leaving the workforce to have kids and never returning. And this really helps them come back to the workforce. It means we do not lose them to be able to generate the national economic growth that we're going to need to support an ageing population.
Can I just ask you on education? You had a long battle with the Gillard and Rudd governments over this Gonski's Better School plan. Tony Abbott's backed in the funding for the first 4 years, but it's a little unclear what strings are attached to that. What's your understanding? If Tony Abbott is Prime Minister, you'll get more money, but will you have to do anything for it?
Well, our position is this, that we are already putting $800 million, more than $800 million over the next 4 or 5 years extra into education to deal with a maintenance backlog we were left by the Labor Party, but also to build the skills of our teachers and our principals and have independent public schools. We're focusing on teacher quality. Now, if Mr Abbott wants to give us more money, we're quite happy to take it, but we believe in making sure that it's targeted to teacher quality. And what we were concerned about with the Labor program, Gonski or whatever we're calling it these days, is that it was just throwing the money out and not really demanding the right sort of outcomes that we believe we want to see. Now, we're not going to agree to things where the federal government start to interfere with the management of schools in Queensland. So that doesn't matter who.
This is the performance monitoring at a
all
federal level. You won't agree to that?
Well, they can, to be in the colloquial, they can nick off. We're not interested in that. Under the Constitution, we run state schools. We're more than happy to take Commonwealth money, but